Namaskar friends, welcome to the channel JIB and CIB Made Simple. In this particular video, we are going to see what are the questions which have been asked in the IIBF Digital Banking Certification course. Examination was held on 27 December 2025. So actually, in the examination, let me give you a brief overview of the examination. So recently, they have shifted to case study type question more and more. As per the feedback received from aspirant who have appeared in the examination, they told that most of the question were, which of the following is not correct type question, case study type question, twisted question, not direct question. So similar question we can expect in our upcoming examination. So keeping that in the mind, I have framed such case study based question for your proper practice, and more question I have added in the study material in such type so that you can practice it more efficiently. So let's get started with our very first question that is on your screen. So basically, what happened here, in early 2026, Bharat Neo Bank, right, which was a major player in the BFSI sector, and they face a dual layer cyber attack, which means, there are two separate attacks in this case. So attack number one is SMS sent to the junior bank employee, and the message claimed that RBI updated UPI security rule, claiming that RBI has updated the mandate for the UPI security. So fake photo look exactly like bank internal system. Right, so that perfectly mimicked the bank internal interface, and this was the attack number one. And attack number two was the email sent to CFO. So the bank CFO received a highly personalized email, appeared to come from CEO, right, asks for urgent wire transfer, right, forced urgent wire transfer request, targeted only one person, which was the CFO. So basically this is the highly targeted attack, and it used research, it used reconnaissance. So the question is, despite the bank zero trust model, 3 junior employee fell for SMS lure, leading to minor data leak. Right. So now the question is, based on the provided text, which of the following statement accurately differentiate the attack that vector used? See, basically option number A says that the SMS sent to the junior employee represent a veiling attack due to a scale of the distribution. B says that email sent to CFO is a form of spear phishing tailored through reconnaissance of public platform like LinkedIn. And option C says that phishing attack in the Indian banking sector are increasingly utilizing AI to mimic UPI app and portal. And D says that veiling attack are generally less research than a standard phishing because veiling target a large volume of people. Very good question. So this question, perfectly address all these three different kinds of, we just know that the first attack that was sent to junior employee. So what was the nature of the attack? See, if we look at the nature, first of all, it is quite clear that, this is a mass attack, right? This is a kind of mass attack. And, this target the general employee. It target the general employee. And the third point is that what method it is using? SMS plus fake website, right? What about the second attack? If you look at the second attack, which was sent to CFO, this is, not mass attack, that is highly targeted attack. This is called, targeted attack. And it used research. It used a lot of research. And the fourth point is that it is a kind of objective is financial fraud. Objective is the financial fraud. Now let's evaluate each and every option. Option number A says that what does option number A say? That it represents a veiling attack. It says that SMS sent to junior employee represent a veiling attack. See, when I say veiling, what is the meaning of veiling? Let me explain. So let me explain what is the meaning of veiling. See, veiling means what? That SMS represent a veiling attack. Actually, veiling does not mean a large number. It is never a large number, right? Veiling means, big person. Veiling means big person, not big quantity. It means big person. So veiling target CEO, veiling target CFO, veiling target directors, right? So since the SMS was sent to junior employee in bulk, so this is a normal phishing, not a veiling. That's why option number A is wrong. What do you think about option number B? It says that the email sent to CFO in the form of spear phishing tailored through reconnaissance. See, so actually this option is correct. Yes, clearly it is correct. Why? Because only one specific person is targeted, which is the CFO. And one more thing is that clearly they have mentioned that the email which was sent to CFO, this was custom made. And what it used? It used the LinkedIn information, and it was pretended to be CEO. So this is called, this technique is what we call, spear phishing. This is called, spear phishing. So when spear phishing target top executive, it is also called veiling. See, veiling is a type of spear phishing only. Don't think that veiling is something different. See, whenever this particular spear phishing, right, it target, top executive. target top executive. It is called valing, right? Now what about option number C? Option number C says that phishing attack in the Indian banking sector are increasingly utilizing AI. See, actually from the case, it is quite clear that, fake portal perfectly mimicked internal system. So fake portal perfectly mimicked internal system. UPI security was used as social engineering hook. So this clearly, so advanced phishing, and AI, artificial intelligence, is being commonly being used to clone the portal, right? Generate realistic message, personalized attack. Hence, I think C is also correct, right? So actually in this question, more than one option can be correct. That's why they have mentioned select all that apply. What about D? D says that valing attack are generally less researched than a standard phishing because they target a larger volume of people. So what do you think about it? Actually, this statement is exactly opposite of the reality. Why? Because when we talk about valing, remember, valing target fewer people. Valing always target, few people. And valing require, deep research. Valing require deep research. Valing use the job role, right? Valing use job role. Valing use public post and email and behavior pattern. So actually it is a deep research, not lot research. So option number D is wrong. So what is the final correct answer? B and C are correct. So let me just tell you a memory trick to remember all this. So there is a memory trick. So remember, suppose it is a big person, right? Suppose it is a big person, then it is called, valing. Suppose it is a personal message. Suppose it is personal message. What we call it? Spear phishing. Spear phishing. Suppose it is a mass message. Suppose it is a mass message. This is called, phishing. So friends, if you are looking for one-stop solution for the entire digital banking, you can check out our course where content have been prepared as per the syllabus which they have prescribed. So there are previous year questions separate folder which consists of all the previous year question, recollected question which have happened in the year 2025 from starting to the end. Then also you get a separate folder for unit wise theory MCQs which has been prepared module wise A, B, C, D, E, as you can see it here. So module A, inside every module you will get unit. Inside every unit there is a separate theory PDF, MCQs PDF. All these PDFs are downloadable. You can download themselves and also take the printout as per your requirement. Many aspirants have cracked the paper using our material. And also, in addition to that, we provide you 100 plus MCQs with answer, right? So all this content will help you surely in the upcoming examination. You can check out the link of the course in the description section. Is what we have learned regarding the valing. So if it is a big person, then it is valing. If it is a personal message, then it's spear phishing. If it is a mass message, then phishing. So remember this WSP formula. WSP formula is, first of all, valing. W for valing. Valing means what? Who, right? Who means, CEO or CFO. That's called valing. Spear. So a spear means, a specific target. As for a specific target. Just remember it, right? And what about phishing? Phishing means, public. It's P for phishing, P for public, which means people in bulk. So remember, phishing is a kind of mass attack. First point to keep in the mind. Then second is spear phishing. Spear phishing is targeted customized attack. Valing is the top executive only. Who? And AI based phishing is a fake portal. Now I think you will always remember these things, right? Because I have given you the memory trick to remember. Now let's have a look at the next question. Question number 2 is on your screen. So it asks that basically this question is testing your understanding of the RBI cyber security compliance and the practical risk reduction measure. So this is question number 2. According to the RBI mandate and the statistical data, which of the following action are essential for bank compliance and risk reduction? So which action are essential for RBI compliance, reducing the cyber risk in bank? So we are looking for mandatory action, proven risk reduction control, and practical realistic measure. So option number A says that reporting any cyber incident to CMS within a strict 6-hour time frame. Option B says that, implementing multi-factor authentication as a sole method to eliminate 100% of the phishing risk. Option C, utilizing AI-driven anomaly detection to identify deviation from a standard executive communication pattern. Option number D, prioritizing employee training, giving that approximately 0.3% of the Indian banker still fall victim to such attack monthly. Very good question it is, right? So if you look at the option number A, reporting any cyber incident to the CMS within 6-hour timeline. See why it is correct? Because RBI mandate time bound reporting of cyber incident, right? Yes, option number A is correct because RBI mandate time bound reporting. RBI always mandate time bound reporting of the cyber incidents. So the case clearly says that the bank follow the CMS protocol, right? Bank have followed the CMS protocol that is reporting the incident within the 6-hour timeline. So yes, this is a regulatory compliance, mandatory requirement, not negotiable. So A is correct, right? This is essential for bank compliance and risk reduction. Option number B says that implementing multi-factor authentication as a sole method to eliminate 100% of the phishing risk. See, option number B is wrong. Why it is wrong? Because this option look attractive, but it is dangerously absolute. Because the key problem word is the sole method. They have mentioned the sole method. Also, 100% eliminate. Actually, in cyber security, no single control can give 100% protection. Please remember it. In cyber security, please remember, you can never get 100% protection, right? So MFA, yes, MFA multi-factor authentication can obviously reduce the risk. MFA obviously reduce the risk, right? But user can still approve the fake prompt. Social engineering can bypass control. So the case mentioned, zero trust model, training, anomaly detection, right? What about option C? Utilizing AI-driven anomaly detection to identify deviation from a standard executive communication. Yes, this is correct. Actually, CFO system flagged abnormal email behavior. Email looked genuine, but tone, urgency, transaction pattern were unusual. Actually, this question is about the previous question only. The mail which was sent to the CFO. So CFO system flagged abnormal email behavior. Email looked genuine, tone is genuine, urgency is genuine, transaction pattern were unusual. So AI anomaly detection compare normal versus abnormal behavior. It flags CFO, CEO spoofing attempt is critical for executive protection. So yes, this is correct. Option number D, prioritizing employee training. See, I think this is also correct. Even trained system fail if human fail. So case clearly shows that 3 junior employee fail for SMS phishing. So these statistics clearly highlight that threat is ongoing. A small percentage is still equal to 1,000 of people in the banking sector. So the correct answer is A, C and D. A, C and D are all correct. So think of the RAT model. The easiest way to remember it, the RAT model. What is the RAT model? R-A-T. R stands for reporting. Reporting means we have to report within time. Within time we have to report. Maximum 6 hours. Then A stands for anomaly detection. Anomaly detection, AI system, right? T stands for training of employee. Training of employee. So never think one tool is enough. MFA alone is not the full protection. So what is the key learning? That RBI mandate time bound cyber incident reporting. MFA reduces risk but not eliminate it. And AI anomaly detection protects senior executive. Human error remain the weakest link. And zero trust, multiple layer, not single control. I hope until now everything is crystal clear. Now question number 3. Question number 3 is talking about that this question is testing why Indian customers are adopting digital banking and what happen if bank fail to meet those expectations. So which of the following base describe the primary driver of the digital banking adoption among Indian customer and the potential consequence of failing to meet this expectation. So focus is on two main things. First thing is the main driver of adoption, primary driver of digital banking adoption, and the second thing is consequence of failing. See, option number 1 is saying that adoption is driven primarily by the high rate of smartphone ownership, and bank can retain 100% of their customer as long as they provide 24/7 accessibility. B says that adoption is fueled by the perceived usefulness, that is convenience and speed, but bank risk losing over the third of their customer base if they fail to provide hyper personalized AI services. C says that technology acceptance model, that's called TAM, suggests that ease of use is the only factor that drives the 85% adoption rate among PSB. And D says that digital banking preference is solely a result of the RBI digital push, with security and fraud detection being secondary concern for most users. Very good question. See, first of all, let's understand the core concept. What is the core concept here? So this question is based on TAM. You know what is TAM? TAM stands for, just now we have told you, technology acceptance model. So this is the basic thing, please understand. TAM means technology acceptance model. Here you can see they have mentioned. And customer behavior in Indian digital banking. First concept is the TAM, customer behavior, how the customer behave, right, in the Indian digital banking perspective, right? And the third point is the role of AI, role of AI, role of personalization, role of convenience and trust. So you know what happened under the TAM? Under the TAM, you know, customer adapt technology because you know it is useful. Customer adopt technology because it is useful. Second point, because it is easy to use. Third point, because it is trustworthy and secure. Now let's evaluate each and every option. Option number A says that you know adoption is driven primarily by smartphone ownership. No, that's wrong. Why it is wrong? Because you know smartphone ownership enables digital banking, but it does not drive the loyalty. Yes, it enables digital banking, but it no way drive loyalty. And 24/7 access is now basic expectation, not a differentiator. This statement our promise retain 100% confident customer. Actually, it is unrealistic. No, you know, customer today want speed. Customer today want convenience, personalization, not just access. Access is just a you know basic expectation. It is not a differentiator. And bank can never retain 100% of their customer. This is unrealistic assumption. What about option B? It says that adoption is filled by the perceived usefulness. What do you think? Actually, you know, this fit perfectly because you know they have mentioned perceived usefulness. See, when I say perceived usefulness under TAM, it means you know our transaction is faster. It means convenience. It means anytime banking. Right. So this case clearly mentioned you know 36% of the are willing to switch bank. And if AI based hyper personalized service are missing. So this directly link you know why customer adopt digital banking. What happen if the bank fail? So this make B the best option and most complete answer. What about option C? Option C says that ease of use is the only factor driving the 85% adoption. Actually, it is incorrect because TAM never say that only one factor. Technology acceptance model never say only one factor. Actually, adoption depends on all other factor also. Adoption depends on ease of use. Adoption depends on usefulness, perceived usefulness. Adoption depends on trust and security. So the word only make this option wrong, right? Because they have mentioned is the only factor. No. Actually, it's wrong. What about option D? It says digital banking preference is solely due to RBI push. No, RBI push adoption, but does not create preference. Customer actively demand speed, security, biometric, fraud protection. Right? That is not a secondary concern. That's why D is wrong. This case explicitly highlights security and trust as a key preference. So D is wrong. So correct answer is you know option number B. So remember the formula. The formula is you know let me write it down. The formula to keep in the mind is you know PUP. So P means you know perceived usefulness, which means adoption. U means you know perceived usefulness, PU, and P means you know personalization, which means retention. So no personalization, customer migration. So fast plus useful adoption, smart and personalized indicate loyalty. So whenever you see this word TAM, just think of the ease of the use. Think of the use of the use. Plus think of the perceived usefulness. Plus think of the trust. Right. And convenience and speed are the primary adoption driver. AI based personalization is not a retention factor. Is now a retention factor. And over 1/3 customer may switch bank if expectation fail. Now, let's switch our focus to the next case study that we have. So this question is checking whether you understand how IoT help bank in two areas at the same time or not. So basically what happened, you know, in 2026, Indira Vikas Bank is the leading institution in India. They launched a pilot project to transform its rural and urban presence using the IoT. So the bank integrated high sensitivity, vibration and temperature sensor into the ATM network. So during the first month, what happened? The system automatically flagged a sudden temperature spike in remote ATM in Haryana before the machine malfunction, allowing for predictive maintenance. Right? Because system itself, you know, warned. What about the next thing? Simultaneously, the bank introduced biometric palm vein scanner at this kiosk, eliminating the need for physical debit card for local farmer. Right. So now the question is, basically based on the paragraph and the case study, which of the following best illustrate how IoT address both operational efficiency and security? So by increasing the number of physical branches in the rural India to manually monitor cash shortage, by utilizing sensor for predictive maintenance. Option C says that by replacing all UPI based transaction with wearable device. Option D says that by strictly following RBI guideline to ignore data security standard in favor of faster real-time monitoring. So this question is checking whether you understand how IoT help bank in two areas at the same time. What are the two areas? The first area is the operational efficiency, and the second thing is the security. Let's decode the case first. So the bank use IoT technology in rural and urban area. So what they do on the operational side? On the operational side, they install temperature and vibration sensor in the ATM. Sensor detected overheating before breakdown. Bank repaired the ATM before the failure. So result is that lower downtime. Our downtime decreases, plus cost saving. Right. And what happened on the security side? On the security side, they introduce for palm vein biometric scanner. Farmer no longer needed physical debit card. It reduced card theft, skimming, unauthorized usage. So clearly you can see on one side what are the advantages of these machines. See, if you look at the sensor, so sensor increases the efficiency. If you look at the biometric, what it does, it ensures security. Now let's look at the option that we have. Option number A says that by increasing the number of physical branch to manually monitor the fault. Actually it is wrong. Why? Because when I say IoT means automation. IoT simply means what? Automation. Right. So sensor replace it does not mean manual work. So sensor replace human monitoring. Increasing branches increases the cost, not efficiency. So what option A is telling you? Option A is telling by increasing the number of branches. So if you increase the So friends, if you look at the option number B says that by utilizing sensor, right, by utilizing sensor for predictive maintenance to reduce downtime and employing biometric authentication to prevent unauthorized access. So what do you think about option number B? See, basically this option is perfect because it ensures operational efficiency. How it ensures operational efficiency? Let me explain. Operational efficiency, it ensure some keyword they have mentioned like predictive maintenance. Yes, this predictive maintenance is for ensuring operational efficiency only. Then also we have early fault detection and reduce ATM downtime and lower repair cost. So all these things hint toward the operational efficiency. And for security, employing biometric authentication, right? Then no card simply means no theft. Okay, so B is also correct. Now what about option C? Option C says that by replacing all UPI based transaction with wearable device. This is incorrect. Why? Because case clearly says NPCI integrate IoT with UPI. Right. So NPCI integrate Internet of Thing with UPI, and UPI is not replaced. UPI cannot be replaced. So wearable are option, not mandatory. So 100% financial inclusion is an exaggeration. So option number C is wrong. What about D? D says that ignoring data security standard for faster monitoring. You can see they have mentioned ignore data security standard for faster monitoring. Yes, it is wrong. Why? Because RBI never allow ignoring data security. RBI mandate what? RBI mandate cyber security. RBI mandate data protection. Right. RBI mandate secure authentication. So this option is factually incorrect and against RBI philosophy. So option number D is wrong. See, whenever we talk about IoT in banking, you can just remember this SB rule. What is the SB rule? So S stand for sensor. So sensor, which means saving and smooth operation. And B stands for biometric. B stands for biometric, which means blocked fraud. Right, blocked fraud. So remember this SB rule, sensor biometric rule. Sensor means saving and smooth operation. Biometric means blocked fraud. So what we learned from this question is that IoT enable predictive maintenance, not reactive repair, and sensor reduce ATM downtime and cost. So as sensor reduce ATM downtime, sensor reduce cost, and biometric improve security and inclusion, and IoT work with UPI. It does not replace it, and digital infrastructure is never digital literacy. Right. Now friends, let's have a look at the next question. What this question is all about? Basically, we will learn NEFT failure, time limit and bank liability. See what happened, that customer saved NEFT transaction of 50,000 rupees via NEFT, and transaction get failed. Reason was that beneficiary account mismatch. So the question is, what are the RBI mandated time limit and financial penalty for the bank? So we are dealing with failed inward NEFT, responsibility of the destination bank, and time bound refund and penalty. So first of all, the option they have given that destination bank has 24 hours to return the fund, failing which they must pay a flat penalty of 500 rupees to RBI. Option B, the fund must be returned within 2 hours of the batch settlement. Any delay beyond this require the bank to pay penal interest at 15% per annum. Option C, if funds are not returned within 30 days, bank is only required to credit the principal amount without any additional compensation. Option number D, the originator bank must wait for the customer to file a manual complaint via the CMS before initiating a return branch. So basically, let me just clear the core concept. So basically, there is something called, RBI 2-hour rule for NEFT return. So this 2-hour rule is for, NEFT return. So it is a NEFT credit fail case, right? It is a NEFT credit fail case, and the destination bank must return the fund within 2 hours and counted after the batch settlement. And if they fail to do so, first of all, they must refund the fund within 2 hours, and this is counted after the batch settlement timing. Once the batch settlement has happened, from that time you count the 2 hours. And if they fail to do so, bank must pay what? Bank must pay a penal interest. Right? What is the rate of penal interest? It is 15% per annum above the reverse repo rate. So this is hard RBI mandate, not optional. So now if you look at the option that they have given, so option number A says that 24-hour return plus 500 rupees penalty to RBI. What do you think about it? Is it correct? No, it is not correct. Why? Because RBI rule is 2 hours, not 24 hours, and penalty is interest to the customer, not a flat fine to RBI. So 500 rupees penalty is a made up. What about option B? Yes, option B is the correct one. Fund must be returned within 2 hours, right? And delay attract penalty at 15% per annum above the repo rate. Yes, above the reverse repo rate. Yes, correct. This is the correct one. So see, 2-hour timeline is there. They have mentioned penal interest rate. They have also mentioned, and interest benchmark is the reverse repo that they have also mentioned. What about option C? After 30 days, only principal need to be returned? No, again wrong. Because RBI protect the customer strongly. For any NEFT delay, customer are entitled to compensation, not just the principal. So 100 rupees per day. 100 rupees per day, T plus 1 delay. Right? 100 rupees per day, T plus 1 delay may apply in certain case. Right? Now, the originator bank must wait for the customer to file a manual complaint. Actually, this is wrong. And NEFT return process is automatic. Return happen via next inward return batch. CMS complaint is not required to start the return. So what we learned is that, this is a very golden rule to remember, is that whenever NEFT failure happen, so there is a rule that you can remember. This is called 215 rule. What we call it? 215 rule. What does it mean? So 2 means, return within 2 hours. 2 means return within 2 hours, and 15 means, 15% penal interest. Right? And if it is above, then above the what? Above the what is the reference rate we take? So reference rate we take is the reverse repo rate. So 2 hour late, 15% interest. Right? So remember, NEFT failure must be reversed within 2 hours. Responsibility lies with the destination bank. Delay attract penal interest. Refund is automatic, not complaint based. And RBI timeline are strict and customer centric. Now, let's have a look at one of the case study. I told you, last time they asked such type of question. That is what we are practicing some. So let's simplify what happened. So here they have mentioned that, Sahyog Gramin Bank is an RRB. It does not have branches or ATM in Mumbai, right? So it work as a sub member of NFS through a sponsor, public sector bank. Customer use a private bank ATM in Mumbai, right? Customer use a private ATM bank in Mumbai, right? And he successfully transferred 4500 rupees. Let me see. Transfer of 4500 rupees, and he also changed the updated his ATM pin. Transaction was routed through the NPCI switch, finally settled through the RBI system. So this question is testing the ATM interoperability as well as NFS architecture. Now the question is, based on the operational framework of the National Financial Switch, which of the following statement accurately explain how the transaction was processed and governed? Option A, since the Sahyog Gramin Bank is an RRB, it must maintain its own independent switching infrastructure to connect to the private bank ATM. B, the transaction was possible because NFS enables shared infrastructure with the NPCI, facilitating the real-time switch. C, the card-to-card transfer of 4500 was only permitted because the customer were using an ATM owned by the sponsored bank. D, NFS is primarily a manual settlement system operated by IDRBT to ensure that rural bank can reduce their ATM deployment cost. So it is a very good question. So I hope it is clear. So Sahyog Gramin Bank is an RRB. It does not have branch or ATM in Mumbai. It works as a sub member of NFS through a sponsor public sector bank. Customer use a private bank ATM in Mumbai. He has transferred 4,500 rupees. Change his ATM pin. Transaction was switched by NPCI. Finally settled through RBI system. So basically, the core concept that you must remember is that how NFS work. So in the case of NFS, NPCI, they run the ATM switch. NPCI, they run the ATM switch, and RBI, RBI handle the settlement, right? And bank share the infrastructure. So this is how it works. In NPCI NPCI run the ATM switch, RBI run the settlement, and bank share the infrastructure. This is why any bank can't work at any bank ATM. Even a small RRB can offer nationwide ATM access. So NPCI handle ATM switch, RBI handle the settlement, and bank handle the infrastructure. If you look at the option A, it says that RRB must maintain its own independent switching infrastructure. No. See, RRB usually act like a sub member. Yes, RRB act like a sub member. They connect to NFS via a sponsor bank. So this is RRB, right? They connect to NFS. How they connect to NFS? Yes, they can connect to NFS via the sponsor bank. There is a sponsor bank for each RRB, right? So no need for on switch, no need for having an on switch, an on nationwide ATM network. So A is wrong. What about B? B says that NFS enables shared infrastructure with NPCI facilitating the real-time switch. Yes, this is the best answer because NPCI operate the national financial switch, route transaction in real time, RBI handle the final settlement, and location does not matter. What about option C? It says that transaction work only because ATM belong to a sponsor bank. It is wrong. Actually, NFS is fully interoperable. ATM card belong to public bank, private bank, foreign bank. A sponsor bank ownership is irrelevant. What about option D? And it says that NFS is manually in settlement system operated by IDRBT. It is wrong. Why?